KOZN, Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edification, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Oh, Hellcat's Movie Club. It's Hellcat's Movie Club. Hellcat's Movie Club. It's Hellcat's Movie Club.
Oh, I love to hear that theme because it's Friday. It's 3:53-ish, and it's time for Kent Wolgamon of the Lincoln Journal-Star to join us in the movie club. How you doing, Kent?
I'm doing well. I've decided to put myself in the transfer portal. Maybe the New York Times will pick me up.
Oh, well.
That's the thing to do in Lincoln, isn't it?
The Journal-Star's loss is the New York Times' gain.
It's pretty, I was going to say, it's a popular thing to do these days, though we just talked about it in the last segment. The return rate on this hasn't been very good. I mean, usually the players that go in the transfer portal don't end up being better on the other side.
No.
They don't play much, though. Well,
There's a reason they're in the
it probably is.
portal.
The movie this week is One Night in Miami. Now, this is based on historical events, but it's not an actual historical event. So it features, and this all takes place basically over one night in Miami on the night that Muhammad Ali wins the World Boxing Championship from Sonny Liston. And at this time, he is still Cassius Clay, but he's just about ready to become Muhammad Ali. You have Muhammad Ali, you have Malcolm X, you have Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke. Now, these all were friends in real life. They were acquaintances. They were friends in real life. And so what you're seeing, and actually the original One Night in Miami was a play.
I didn't know that until I was doing research this morning.
I didn't either. So this film is basically an adaptation from the play. So a lot of this probably represents conversations that happened over a period of time, but in the order to create a dramatic presentation, it's kind of presented as if it happened all on this one fateful night in Miami. So they make it clear that this actual night did not happen, but the conversations happening within were probably ones that happened over time. So as the story
they were all in Miami that night, and they were all
that is
together.
True. Yes,
and they were all together, but nobody knows what was said in that room.
Right.
Okay.
Besides the four guys that were there, and at this point, just one of them is alive, and Jim Brown.
That's right. Jim Brown's the only one that's alive. And just quick side note, I didn't realize, because I obviously I knew who Sam Cooke was. I didn't know that he died shortly after.
Killed,
yeah, he was murdered. Well, he wasn't. It was technically a shooting in self-defense, but there's been controversy over whether or not it really was.
That is a real. I can pull a book out over here that's his biography. That is a real. What really happened? I mean, what happened was he got shot, but why is a whole different thing. Interestingly, I talked to Leslie Odom Jr., who plays Sam Cooke. He's the Broadway star. He was Aaron Burr in the original Hamilton.
Okay.
And he had told me that he was making when I talked to him, he did a lead center performance. And when I talked to him, he told me he was making a movie in which he played Sam Cooke. And I thought it was a biopic of Sam Cooke, right?
It was
because
this.
he didn't describe the movie at all beyond that.
Yeah.
Then it comes on and it's like, oh, it's that. And he said that one of the reasons that he got cast in that is because he could actually sing like Sam
Yes.
Cooke.
Hey, I couldn't believe it, Ken, how much he sounds like Sam Cooke. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was very good performance.
Yeah.
Really was.
And that's why he got, in part, the reason why he got cast in the movie is they were looking for somebody that could actually sing, so they didn't have to monkey around with, lip syncing and getting royalties and all, rights to use the songs.
Right.
That he could sing those. What's he do? 3 songs? 2 songs? 3?
Yeah.
And then he kind of did like his just random singing throughout the movie.
Wow,
But the a change is going to come.
That was so cool.
At the very end, that's the whole song. I mean, he did the whole thing.
Yeah. And he did the songs in the Copa. And
yes.
And for not that it matters. I really don't think it matters, but his bomb performance at the Copa actually happened a year or so before the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And before he died, he released a really good live album that was recorded at the Copa. And he was really good. So that is taken out of historical time, and a change is going to come. And actually, he'd written that before that night as well. It wasn't that they spent that night and then he went and wrote the song like the play kind of implies. But I don't think that matters, honestly.
To me, I think the interesting thing about it, because all 4 of these men are at a crossroads in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Ali is about to become the heavyweight champion, and
he's about to literally become Ali
and convert to Islam. Jim Brown is about to wrap up his football career. Unbeknownst to him, he wants to do movies, and then later he turns out he ends up just quitting football because the NFL wasn't going to accommodate him. The Browns weren't going to accommodate him, so he's at a crossroads. Sam Cooke is at a crossroads because, as you will see in the film, really the heart of the conflict in this movie is between Malcolm X and Sam Cooke. A lot of the arguing is between those two because Malcolm X feels that Sam Cooke isn't doing enough to forward the cause, that he's being too white-centered with his because he's got a bunch of hit songs and he's been making money. So that's where the conflict is. And of course, Malcolm X is in the position of transitioning out of the Nation of Islam because of disagreements he's had with Elijah Muhammad due to his philandering and just his hypocrisy. And so Malcolm X is trying to start his own sect, which he wants to bring Muhammad Ali into. So all of these men are at a crossroads on this night, which leads to the conversations that are happening in and around this hotel room throughout the course of the evening. So that's basically the setup for the film.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you thought, Kent, but I loved it. It's really the conversations that they were having and the internal struggles that each of the 4 men were having with their own lives and careers, and then weaving it into the greater conversation of forwarding civil rights and trying to get out from underneath the thumb of oppression. I thought it was very well done because honestly, you could close your eyes and listen to this movie and get a lot out of it that you don't even need to see it. You could close your eyes and just listen to the conversations and just learn a lot. That was my number one takeaway.
I agree with that. And I also think Regina King directed it, and she this is a masterful job of turning a play into a movie. It actually feels like a movie, right? Because sometimes you see movie adaptations of plays that feel like you're watching a play. When I write about it, I call it stagey, right? It feels like you're watching a proscenium stage in front of you, right? And that's not a movie. And by doing the fight scenes and when they go in and out of the motel room and all of the different things they do makes it feel like a movie. And then it even feels like a movie within the hotel room. So that's one thing. The other thing that I thought was spectacularly smart that they did, and I don't know that they did it intentionally. She has said that people didn't want to audition for this movie. Your big stars thought you should just cast me, right? I'm not going to audition.
Mhm.
And so they auditioned people and they picked largely unknowns. When Leslie Odom Jr. is the best known member of your cast, it's an unknown cast, okay?
Yeah.
But they kind of all look like the guys to some measure.
Sure.
And the guy who plays Malcolm looks exactly like him. He could be him, you know, and that visually made it work more for me, right? And I just thought it was a really interesting, well done film that, as you say, had, you know, reflects something about these four guys and the time and all of it. I was really impressed by it. I think you know, and when I wrote about it, I really didn't. I mean, I don't have any grand criticism of it. You know, I don't. It moves along. You know,
Yeah.
it's awfully believable. And then when they go to show those photographs at the end, you just go, wow, she did a really good job of capturing even when they were in that diner or whatever it was, and he was taking the pictures.
Yeah, you know, Kent, we never really talked about it except for in passing, but the trial of the Chicago 7 came out, you know, late last year. And now this comes out, and I've watched both of them. And I thought, you know, weirdly, they were both prescient in their own unique ways to the moment that we're living in right now. And
Absolutely.
I couldn't help but think as I finished this movie, because I'm with you, I really enjoyed it. And especially ending on A Change Is Gonna Come like it did. I thought it had an emotional punch to it at the end. I thought, like, this is almost what Trial of the Chicago 7, I think, was trying to. I wanted that movie to evoke the emotions that this one did for me. I just thought it was so powerful, and I agreed with John. Like, you could close your eyes, and I was riveted by the conversations, absolutely riveted, because I had no idea what this movie was going to be about beyond just these four people were involved. And so I didn't know, are they going to go out in Miami? Are they partying? Like, what's happening in Miami? And I ended up loving that it was just so small in a way, like you said, just being a movie inside of a movie inside that motel room.
And, you know, and it's among the things it shows in keeping them in that hotel room is they were in the segregated hotel. Sam Cooke has this huge room at the Fontainebleau, blah, 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 but they have this in this segregated hotel. I mean, we don't even think about that today, right? But that was a segregated society in Miami, you know, and it shows that without beating you over the head with it, so to speak. And it also gets to the period. I remember I was a little kid when this happened.
Mhm.
And my grandfather was a huge boxing fan. So I would go watch boxing with him on the weekend, on primarily on Wide World of Sports on Saturdays with Howard Cosell and all of that. Well, by the time I was 10 years old, I was a huge Ali fan. Well, this happened before I was, you know, before that. But I remember that, and I remember his conversion, and it was so controversial.
Yes.
And when Jim Brown quit football, once again, I was probably 8 when that happened, maybe not even that old, and it was like, what? You know, Jim Brown quit football, and the whole thing with Malcolm. And I guess I'm saying this is personally maybe why I related to it a little more is, you know, obviously it should not go without saying that Malcolm was born in Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And over the years, I've met his daughters and spoken with them, and I've really come to have a great deal of admiration for him and and that portrayed the Malcolm that I had kind of thought he would be like. Does that make any sense at all?
It does.
And like I say, then you have the Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom. Where do I come from? Lamar Odom is Sam Cooke. Yeah, Leslie Odom, who I talked. So it was these like connections to the time that really resonated for me as well.
I think the strength of it, especially because when we learn about this period of history, we're learning it kind of two-dimensionally and in a timeline and in a sense of, these are Black people fighting for their right to, to coexist peacefully with everyone else. And so we learn history that way. I thought this was educational from the standpoint of this is taking us inside the minds of these very powerful, influential Black males who are struggling with their own internal issues in the greater scheme of the civil rights movement. And so you get an idea, like I thought especially strong were the Malcolm X, Sam Cooke debates.
They were great.
Absolutely.
Going back and forth between each other because you're hearing the internal struggle within the greater struggle of how should we go about doing this? Because Sam Cooke, in addition to being a successful singer and making money on his own talents, was also investing in other white talents and was making money off of them because of the songs that he helped produce and write. So he was kind of dipping into a revenue stream that not a lot of Black individuals had a chance to do. So he was really living in two different worlds, and Malcolm X really diving in and saying, you need to be doing more for us. And then, of course, Sam Cooke would come back with, well, you keep calling white people the devil. And I just thought because that's the center of the movie to me was Sam Cooke versus Malcolm X from their conversations. But just hearing them all together, I thought was very educational because as a white person, I didn't understand what the struggle was internally. I just know the two-dimensional side of history of how things got to where they were.
And I thought when they had that clash about him, where Cook's talking about how he's making money off the white guy.
Yeah.
Basically, Malcolm really didn't have much of a comeback to that by the end.
No.
He kind of got, and so, I don't know if that really happened or not, but boy, it sure rang true. Like that would have left somebody like Malcolm without the ground that he was using to criticize. And the other thing that I do think that Jim Brown character, there's an authority about Jim Brown, right?
Yes.
Even when you see him on TV today and he's 85 years old or however old he is, he has that authority, and he kind of commanded all those other guys in a way.
Yes.
When it was time to get things under control, it was Jim that got it under control, right? And the kid that played Ali, I thought also got to some degree Ali, but nobody going to capture him. I mean, Will Smith played him, did as good a job as you could do, but the real Ali, you're never going to get him completely imitated. And of course, in the boxing scenes, he did all right, but he was really slow compared to.
Yes.
I mean,
the good news is that was a very
punches.
Yeah. The good news is that was just done to set up the night, and so it wasn't as big a deal.
The thing that I think I liked most about this movie was that I thought the actors did such a good job at just showing the chemistry that they had as friends. Like I couldn't believe, because I'm watching this and I'm like, I can imagine all these conversations. I can imagine them going that way. Can't what you just said about the Sam Cooke Malcolm X argument. It's like that would be what a friend would say. That would be a solid retort. I just thought that their chemistry. This movie obviously doesn't work without it, but I think it really made it go from a movie that I would have liked to a movie that I really want to see again at some point in time.
Absolutely, and and just the little things like. They knew that Sam Cooke could have a flask in his guitar case.
That was great. Yeah.
That was classic. I had no guess we got to find that, but while Malcolm's gone.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because as we know, Malcolm is a teetotaler, and he's not going to go for
and
that.
then the young brother comes in, and he's like, wanting the autographs, and they're literally hiding the flask.
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny. Yeah, and then he's like wanting to have all these conversations. He's wanting to get all their autographs. Oh, that was good.
Yeah, it was a really, really good movie. There's talk that it's going to get some award nominations because it technically they were smart and they've changed some of the Oscar rules for this year, but they did show it, I believe, theatrically a couple places before the end of the year, which then they qualify for 2020. And I could see that getting some nominations. I really could. Any of those guys, since there's no one guy that you would call a lead actor, I could see any of them get a supporting actor nomination, but particularly the guy who played Malcolm, I think.
Kingsley Ben-Adir.
And he's from England, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, so, and he did a very good job capturing Malcolm X. And of course, that's another thing you mentioned. Will Smith, did as great as he could have.
I never saw that movie.
Obviously, when Denzel did Malcolm X in that movie, that's a hard act to follow. Mm-hmm. But I thought this was well done because when I see those characters now on film, I instantly think I'm going to compare it to Denzel, or I'm going to compare Ali to what Will Smith did, and I thought these held up very well. Because there are certain mannerisms and ways of speaking and things that, if you don't have them, then it's not going to feel like the character is there. And I felt like the characters were there and I didn't know as much about Sam Cooke as the other three, but I thought they were all very well captured. And again, the singing,
he nails it. I couldn't believe how much he sounded
fantastic.
Like him.
It was really well done.
Well, and there's a reason for that. The other, what do I want to say? The other movie that I would refer people to if you want to watch something interesting, and I can't remember the title of it, it's the documentary about Ali's fight in Zaire with George Foreman.
Was that the 30 for 30?
No.
It's When We Were Kings?
When We Were Kings, that's it. And the reason I said that is when I was talking about how slow the boxing was, there's a scene in there where Ali shadow boxes the camera.
Yes.
And he throws 7 punches in 10 seconds or something. It's just like boom, 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 and it's like whoa.
That was also great when him and was it Jim Brown, right? That were kind of doing that. They were shouting. It was like, can you imagine standing there and just play fighting with it? It's like, no, thank you. I'm good. I'll just hang out over here in the corner.
Yeah,
I don't really think I want to try having Cassius Clay / Muhammad Ali just punch me once. Just to see how fun that would be.
Yeah. If you want to see it, When We Were Kings and it won the Academy Award for Best Documentary in 1996. But it's about the famous Rumble in the Jungle.
I've heard that's one of the best sports documentaries ever.
It's very good. It's very good.
If you watch Ali in that, even when what would he have been? 40-ish, 35-ish then? Because he was 23, right?
When the fight took place?
When this fight took place.
When the Rumble in the Jungle took place?
Night in Miami. Wasn't
he was 23.
He was 20.
So he'd have been 30. So Ali would have been 33 when he in 74.
Okay, 30. So he was in his mid 30s, and he's still just unbelievably quick in that. That's the
So the movie again is One Night in Miami, and it is streaming on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
So you can catch it there, and it comes highly recommended by all of us.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
All right. Well, Stibbs isn't here, but he did send in his submission.
Yeah,
here we go.
I'm guessing you like this one. I think I remember us talking about it way back in the day on the show. It is available on Hulu, so if you don't have a Hulu, you can get a free trial. It is Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods. I've seen it one time. I'm looking forward to watching it again. It's been quite a few years. So, yeah, Cabin in the Woods. It's horror movie, but very funny as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, for that kind of movie, it's different enough to be recommendable. Let's put it that way.
For
You
sure.
know?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, if you hate horror movies, like if you truly hate them, this isn't for you. But if you are like okay, maybe dipping your toes in the water, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll be next week in the movie club, and by next Friday, Kent will be getting ready for Nebraska basketball
Oh, it's
again.
back, Kent.
So this is your last weekend off.
Yeah, well, unless the COVID hits again. Although I can't imagine that everybody on that team hasn't had it by now.
You would think. I mean, it's been a month now, and oh man, it's hit that program hard.
Uh-huh.
And
So-
how brutal are those games going to be coming back
Oh.
after playing?
I don't know if you saw how Michigan State came back from its pause, but they weren't good last night.
Yeah, well, they're not good, I don't think, period.
No. That is true. Well, Kent, we'll talk to you next week for Cabin in the Woods.
Sounds good.
All right. See you later. There he is, Kent
There,
Wolgamott
Kent.
of the Lincoln Journal-Star. That is the movie club for this week. And when we come back, we're getting closer to One Beer Friday.
Yeah, we are.
And we have a one that we have not tried yet. Or at least I haven't tried yet. I'm assuming you guys haven't tried yet. That is in the refrigerator. So we'll be doing that shortly. It's sports themed.
The beer is?
The beer is sports themed.
Ooh.
Yep, indeed.
Ooh.
It's not Schlitz, I promise. 1620 The Zone.
Your Omaha area